Okay, so we're on 5.6. This is the last section. After today, please submit your notes. So we're on law of sines. We just had the formula quiz, so you should be able to do those 3 formulas again. So go ahead and do that. The 3, you forgot already. Okay, so basically law of cosine is the generalized Pythagorean theorem. So let's say you're trying to find c. You would do c squared equals a squared plus b squared. That's how you usually do it for right triangles. But now if it's on a non-right triangle, you cannot do this. There is no hypotenuse. So you have to add this extra term. Minus 2ab cosine of the angle in between. That angle in between is going to be c. And this is, if you draw the triangle like this, a, b, c. And remember the opposite sides are a, b, c, those are the small ones. So basically, if you're trying to figure out the third side, c, and you know these 2 sides, a and b, then you're going to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but it's not a right triangle. You cannot do that. So you have to minus 2ab and then cosine of the angle in between. So 2 sides and the cosine of the angle in between. All right, so go ahead and write down the other 2 formulas. You're going to start with a squared, and then you're going to start with b squared. Okay, so a squared is going to be b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine a. And b squared is a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine b. Okay, now we're going to actually apply this. So we're going to solve a triangle. Remember, solving means find every single side and angle that is missing. So let's say that they give you this measurement. So A, B, C. And they tell you that side A is 11, side B is 5, angle C is 20 degrees. Okay, so we want to find everything. So angle A, B, C, and then sides A, B, C. 11, 5, and 20 degrees. All right, first, when you solve a triangle, you always want to start with the easiest possible method. The easiest possible method to solve is SOHCAHTOA. Can we use SOHCAHTOA? No. SOHCAHTOA only works on what? Right triangles. This is, we don't know if this is right triangle or not, so we cannot use SOHCAHTOA. The next easiest thing is law of sines. Can I use law of sines? No. Law of sines requires what?
Like a match.
A match, yeah, a pair. So between the angle and its opposite side. There is nothing like that. We have no choice but to use law of cosine. To use law of cosine, this is how you identify what to do. You usually are given 2 sides and an angle. You want to just basically find the side that's opposite of the angle that's known. In this case is C. So let's say side C. So C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared minus 2AC, AB, cosine of the angle in between. All right, we don't know what C is. We know that A is 11, so 11 squared, and then B is 5 squared minus 2 times 11 times 5. Cosine of the angle in between, that is 20 degrees. Okay, everyone, please take out your calculator. I'm going to show you some stuff. Okay, so here are a few things you want to ask yourself when you see this, is this correct? First, can I do this? Add all this up and then cosine 20. No, why not? Yes, there are 3 terms. You cannot sweep across and then go out of order, right? So order of operation matters. Next, let's say that for some reason you said C is equal to 200. Is that correct? Or is it possible? Is it possible for C to be 200? No. Why not?
Because that's C squared.
Could be C squared, but why couldn't it be C?
Because it's like the biggest angle.
It's too big. It is too big. But why? How do you tell what number is too big? Not really law of sines.
Could you just look at the angle? Because like, isn't it like big?
Yes, that's a very small angle, so opposite side should be small. But also remember in geometry, we said the rule about a triangle. The sides of two sides have to add up to be greater than the third side. There's no way 11 plus 5 is bigger than 200, therefore this is not possible. So then you want to just say like, oh, okay, my number doesn't make any sense. I probably just forgot the square root. Okay, so go ahead and figure out C, and then I'm going to show you how to find A and B. Okay, what's the measurement for C? 529. Okay, that's good. So we want to keep as many digits as possible. The earlier you round, the more inaccurate it's going to be. Okay, so C is 6.529. Now what do we do to find A and B? Okay, this is a tricky thing. Yes, you see here a pair, right? So we're really tempted to just say law of sines. However, there's a limitation to law of sines. We talked about it last week, I hope, maybe. Law of sines can only find what kind of angles? No. No. Why was it that, okay, so remember last week we spent 2 days on law of sines. The first day was like super easy, and then second day we said ambiguous case, right? Why was there a need to do an ambiguous case?
Because you only have some reference and sine has like the upper two quadrants positive.
No, very close, but not quite. Law of sines, the limitation. Okay, law of sines limitation is it can only find an angle that is acute. It will only find angles that's less than 90. If this angle, if A turns out to be obtuse, you will never be able to tell. Your calculator will only give you a number that's less than 90. You would say this is a very small triangle, and then you would be entirely wrong, and you would never be able to find out. So this is very scary. So you don't want to use law of sines. Law of sines has this limitation. Okay, why does law of sine have this limitation? Because calculator. So calculator uses inverse sine, right? Okay, let's think about inverse sine, last chapter. Inverse sine only finds what kind of angles? Inverse sine only you can put anything, well, not anything. You can put between -1 to 1 in x. What comes out? What kind of angle comes out? Not positive. Oh, go back to last chapter. What kind of angles for inverse sine? This side, hint, hint. What is it? I know, but I drew it. What angles?
Pi 2 over 2 pi. No.
Between what?
Pi over 2.
Negative pi over 2.
Correct. Negative pi over 2 to positive pi over 2. Negative 90 degrees to 90 degrees. That's the only numbers you'll ever see. You will never find anything bigger than that. So we can't do that. However, inverse cosine. Inverse cosine equals a value. Remember inverse cosine? What numbers come out of inverse cosine?
Negative.
0 to pi. Thank you. 0 to pi. Therefore, 0 to 180. Remember in your triangle, you only have 180 degrees. So then it will find all the angles. So law of cosine is better than law of sines. Law of sines, you have to be very careful. If it's a obtuse angle, you will not find it. All right, all that being said, I need to help you find A. So let's say we're trying to find A. To find angle A, we need the opposite side. The opposite side is 11. Okay, so I'm gonna just write it in and then we can solve it together. A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine of the angle in between, and that's gonna be A. All right, let's put everything we know in here. Side A is 11. Side B is 6.529. C is 5 minus 2 times 6.529 times 5 cosine of the angle in between, which we don't know. All right. Now, solving this. Should be pretty easy, but this is where a lot of people make mistakes. So, again, should I add all this together and then subtract or divide? No, don't do that. I need to subtract this, and then what do I do with this part? Divide. Okay, so a lot of people add for some reason. They see this minus and they want to add it. No, you got to divide. And then you want to do an inverse cosine to get A. Okay, so go ahead and figure out A, and then after that, figure out the missing angle. Okay, let's say that we did use the same numbers that we're doing in here. So basically C is 6.529. Wait, okay, I use 6.925. Then B is going to be 144.832. And A is, oh no, wait, I think, no, that's A. 144.832, and B is 15.168 degrees. So it really depends on how much you rounded and how early you rounded. So if you use 6.5, truncating the 2.9, your numbers are gonna be very different. So mine is actually 1 whole degree off. That's a lot for an angle. So round to nearest thousands. Okay, let's try one more, and we're gonna move on to a different kind. Solve the triangle ABC, and you have A, B, and C, 9, 7, 5. All right, I'm going to help you get started with one angle. Which angle do you guys want to solve first? Huh? A? Okay, I guess it doesn't matter. A. So then you have to use the opposite side. That's 9. So 9 squared is equal to the two sides. 7 squared plus 5 squared minus 2 times the two sides. And then cosine of the angle in between, which is A. That's the one that we want to find. Okay, so go ahead and figure out angle A, and then after that, B and C. $95.7 degrees, 50.7 degrees, and 33.6. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if this is like super easy, I got this. And then sideways thumb, I still make some mistakes, but I know what to do. Downwards thumb, I don't know what's going on. Everybody must vote. Okay, all right, mostly good. All right, let's go. Then we're gonna skip this practice. It's just kind of the same thing. You can practice on your homework. All right, so let's say we're trying to find the area of a triangle. Area of a triangle is always 1/2 base times height. But what's the relationship between the base and the height? If you want to use the area formula, 1/2 base times height, what is the relationship between this base and the height? If you want to use it. You're like, it's just always given to me? No. What's the relationship between base and height? Yes. Yes, and they have to be perpendicular. If they're not perpendicular, you cannot just take any two numbers and then multiply them together. So let's look at 3 cases. If you have a right triangle, then the area is automatically 1/2 base times height. Let's say this is B for base, and then this is height. Height and base has to be 90 degrees. This is, that's just how it works. If you have an obtuse angle like this, let's say this is B, then if you want to figure out the area, you will have to draw a right angle like that in order to figure out H, so you can use the formula. So basically, if you don't have a right angle, you have to force a right angle to find the altitude. Same thing here. If you have an acute angle, and let's say this is B, if you want to find the area, you have to find this line, which is the altitude. let's say that you don't want to spend the time to find the altitude. Let's say that you do know two other sides, A and C, and you know the angle in between. Then a fast way to find h, basically this is SOHCAHTOA. You just trying to figure out what h is and then simplify the formula. But essentially the formula is always 1/2 two sides and sine of the angle in between. So 1/2 base times height turns out to be 1/2 two sides and the sine of the angle in between. That sine of the angle in between is basically the height. You go around and do the SOHCAHTOA, you'll figure that out. But we can just memorize it as 1/2 two sides and sine of the angle in between. That's always going to help us figure out the the area. So area is 1/2 the two sides that you know and sine. Remember, it's sine, not cosine. A lot of people just accidentally write cosine. It's not cosine, sine of the angle in between. It doesn't have to be A, B, C. If you know B and C, you would do sine of the angle in between, which is A. Okay, but basically two sides and then sine of the angle in between. So let's try to solve a question using that simplified formula. Let's say that you're trying to find the area of a regular octagon. What does octagon mean? 8 sides. Octagon means 8 sides. Inscribed inside a circle. What does inscribed mean? Think about geometry.
Each point is actually
Yes. Inscribed doesn't mean that it's inside. Yes, of course it's inside, but it's not somewhere inside like this. It means that every single one of those vertex is also touching the circle. Okay? Okay, it tells you that the radius is 9. They want you to find the area of this octagon. This is like a mathy question. Okay, so the way I drew the radius is not helpful. So what helps is knowing that this is an inscribed polygon. So that means the polygon is actually touching the circle. So from the center to the vertex is 9 because that's the radius, right? Yes. Okay, I'm going to give you a few hints. I'm going to let you solve this on your own. This creates another one, and this basically creates a triangle. Think about how to find the area of that triangle, and then think about how to find the octagon's area. So that's enough hint. Go ahead and figure it out. If you're stuck, ask your partner, or you can ask me. So if you haven't gotten the answer yet or you want to double check, it's 229.103. So go ahead and try the next one. This question, 95.92.